It's the heavy artillery KBT packing all the heat and all the weight. It is KBT02 Bayonit with a kit of missile, rifle, Gatling, biped legs, and the leg ability of heavy arms, which buffs all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit for every HV part equipped. Now, sticking true to his heritage as a traditional KBT type, he sports the exact same kit that you'd see across the board with any other traditional KBT, including Psychachis or Metabee or even Metal Beetle, the OG. So his kit overall does not change in that respect. Missile is a standard gunpowder-based move that is an AoE type attack, so it will damage all 4 parts at even damage. Rifle is a standard shooting attack with no major drawback, disadvantage, or advantage. Very solid balanced attack all directions. And Gatling is another standard shooting attack with a scattered AoE, meaning that it will damage 1 part normally and 2 parts at random at 1/3 of your total damage. Now on the books, Bayonit sounds just as balanced as any other KBT. So the ultimate question is, what makes him so different? The big question and the answer to that is the weight. Because he's packing triple heavy, he also is packing the extra advantage with that, with extra base damage and slightly higher and better performing stats overall. So if you were to go number by number and compare Bayonit to, say, Metabee as a standard balance and point of reference, you will find that Bayonit does have a very noticeably higher base damage and a very noticeably higher base armor limit when fully capped at 5-star. Heat and Cool honestly is also pretty solid across the board. I'd say relatively nominal compared to the two of them, but again, the big issue with that is with the cost of the extra power and the extra armor means the extra weight, meaning that Bayonit is honestly very subject to the heavy punish by anyone wielding a gravity-based attack. However, despite this, Bayonit seems to take all this extra weight in stride thanks to his ability of heavy arms, so even though his leg stats, especially his mobility, may be very, very horribly abysmal, he makes up for it very, very efficiently in the fact that all that extra weight he's packing actually works to his advantage. So say his cap mobility at about 440 or so, normally before any modifier. If you factor in the triple heavy of his standard kit, realistically his base mobility actually goes up to roughly mid 500s, which will put him generally on par with most other standard biped legs. Probably not quite in that really good spot, but definitely better than where he was in the low 400s. And if you add the S rank compatibility on good terrains on top of that, I'd say you could probably jump to low to mid 600s at best, which is still much, much better than where he was before. But because of his incredible balance, he also does not sport any major drawback aside from the heavy limit being his biggest glaring weakness. I'd say it's an Achilles tendon in this case, or Achilles heel in this case, because it works to his advantage, but it also is his greatest weakness. So for these reasons, I would honestly have to rate Bayonit a pretty solid 6.5 out of 10. I would argue arguments could be made for a 7 in some cases, but it's primarily because the weight is something that both helps him and hurts him. Especially when it comes to needing that extra speed, Bayonit is someone you are not going to want to rely on if mobility is something you want to prioritize. As mixed parts, however, because of his incredible balance across the board, I would rate him just a little bit higher, if not equal tier than as a pure set, at about a 7 out of 10. His basic rifle and Gatling parts you can generally make use of anywhere in any build, especially if you don't mind eating a heavy slot for it, especially with the higher base power that it offers. And if in the rare sense where you do end up needing to use a heavy shooter with triple heavy, say for instance God Emperor or Beastmaster or Death Providence, or someone that's basically triple heavy in this case, maybe geared towards shooters as a preference, you could probably make use of his legs relatively feasibly. You may not be on the faster side, but you at least have the coverage to, at the very minimum, bring you up to speed with most other conventional bipeds across the board.